In the vast expanse of the plain, the balance has been disrupted. Shen Jing, the stern overseer, delivers the grim news. The protagonist Shen Ying has fallen into a deep dormancy, her energy completely drained by her role as the manager of the plain. Despite the warnings of the risks involved, her devoted companions are desperate to save her. Refusing to accept a passive role, Yi King and Lone Moon decide to gamble with their very existence. They resolve to channel their own god power and immortal Kai directly into Shen Ying, hoping to wake her from her slumber, despite the immense danger that the assistant seals might not be reversible. The attempt backfires violently. As the energy is rejected by the system, it surges outward, causing the men to lose consciousness as their dantian empties. The two fall into an abyss of darkness, unaware of what the cost of their sacrifice will be. When they awaken, the world is unrecognizable. Bound and hanging upside down, they find the protagonist, but she is changed. Shorter, younger, and utterly cold, she stares at them with no recognition in her eyes, treating them as hostile intruders. The younger Shen Ying, appearing only 15, is suspicious of the two captives. She questions how they infiltrated her domain, threatening to scan their minds to extract the truth, completely unaware that she is the one who has lost her memories of them. Through frantic explanation, Lone Moon manages to convey their identities and the truth of their situation. Slowly, the realization dawns on the younger Shen Ying that she is the manager of this realm, and these men were her trusted assistants before the dormancy incident. She confirms their claims by checking the assistant seals on their bodies. The light beams vanish and the two collapse to the floor. The relief is palpable, but it is short-lived. Shen Ying remains detached, displaying a cold, clinical personality that contrasts sharply with the lazy person they once knew. Shen Ying waves her hand, reshaping the divine realm to mimic her old home. She interrogates them about her past self, trying to reconcile the 15-year-old girl she is now with the adult manager they claim she was. The realization hits that her current form is a side effect of their botched energy transfer. She scolds them for their foolishness, revealing the cold, sharp intellect that sits beneath the surface of this 15-year-old body, proving she is far from defenseless. She reveals that she sealed the plane to prevent Shen Jing from coming for them in a vengeful rage. Lone Moon is stunned by her logic, realizing that the 15-year-old Shen Ying possesses an overpowering intellect that he had severely underestimated. She admits that there is no shortcut to recovery. She must wait for time to heal the energy depletion. With no other choice, they decide to return to the Invincible sect, hoping to find a solution once they are back in their home base. Using a dandelion as a positioning tool, they open a passage back to the Invincible sect. Despite her weakened, mortal-like form, Shen Ying displays an eerie level of confidence, leaving her companions both confused and awestruck. They arrive back at the Invincible sect's mountain. Radish, a giant plant creature, is overjoyed to see them, shaking the earth with his heavy, happy movements as he offers a dandelion flower to the young Shen Ying. In an unexpected twist, Shen Ying accepts the dandelion. Lone Moon watches in disbelief, as this gesture seems to bypass her current cold, defensive exterior, triggering a bizarre celebration from the plant creature. They navigate the sect, and to Lone Moon's surprise, no one suspects the change in her. Her presence commands automatic respect, and her new, concise, and cold demeanor is interpreted as a sign of profound authority. Lan Hua, a local master, encounters them, and after being tricked by Lone Moon, ends up dumping a horde of pill-making materials and weapons into Shen Ying's hands. She remains stoic, leaving the man flustered and defeated. Dinner becomes an intense, competitive feast. Shen Ying, despite her changed exterior, remains a die-hard foodie at heart. She competes silently with Lone Moon, devouring the dishes with a singular focus that proves she hasn't changed as much as she seems. Lone Moon suggests that she meet the rest of the sect leaders to establish her presence. To his shock, she vehemently refuses. She exhibits severe social anxiety, turning cold and rigid as if shielding herself from the world. Yi King realizes the depth of her social struggle. He gently approaches her in her room, his patient, nurturing nature acting as a balm to her anxiety, allowing her to relax momentarily. Yi King notices the clothes are too long for her current form. In an attempt to help, he mistakenly suggests they mend them. A moment of misunderstanding occurs, leaving both flustered, before Lone Moon suddenly bursts in and complicates things. Yi King flees the room in a state of confusion and embarrassment. His dedication to Shen Ying is unwavering, even if his attempts to assist her often lead to awkward, heart-pounding moments. Peace is brief. A request arrives from the Bo Sea Emperors to rehold an immortal gathering. Lone Moon recognizes this as a political trap designed to sow discord between their leaders, and he decides to accept the challenge. Instead of backing down, Lone Moon plans a grand countermove. He decides to make the gathering as ostentatious as possible, intending to invite every notable figure to turn the Emperor's trap back upon themselves. Lone Moon tasks the group with preparing immortal contest pills. These aren't for their disciples, but for the scheming emperors, meant to force them into a self-destructive power struggle. Amidst the political maneuvering, Yi King remains focused entirely on Shen Ying. He peels nuts and feeds her, a silent expression of his deep, protective devotion that catches her off guard. Shen Ying questions Lone Moon about her relationship with Yi King. When he teasingly refers to him as her boyfriend, her world shifts, and she begins to view her disciple through a completely new lens. Shen Ying begins to observe Yi King with a new curiosity. As he serves her, she impulsively offers him a pastry, feeding him. The romantic tension escalates, turning the simple meal into an emotionally charged encounter. The day of the gathering arrives. They travel in grand style on a magnificent spirit bird, a show of power that Lone Moon calculated perfectly to impress and intimidate the assembled dignitaries. At the gathering, the atmosphere is electric. As they land, the crowd expects a clash between leaders, but they are met with a surprising display of unity that throws the scheming emperors off balance. Shen Ying takes the central seat, her calm demeanor commanding instant respect. The local emperors, confused by the shift in leadership, struggle to maintain their composure as their trap fails to trigger. Lone Moon finally takes control, unleashing a wave of suppression that forces the scheming emperors into submission. He then expertly distributes the immortal contest pills, creating an internal power struggle among the guests. After the gathering, they discover a mysterious blue realm gate. Shen Ying identifies it as a crack in the plane, indicating a much larger, hidden world beneath their current one. They retreat to the divine realm to view the plane in its true, tree-like form. Shen Ying reveals that they have the authority to manage it, provided they understand how to use their innate powers. Back at the sect, the boundaries between master and disciple blur into something much deeper. Shen Ying, fueled by the suggestion of their bond, initiates a bold advance, leaving Yi King breathless and the two facing the reality of their awakening love. The story begins with a chilling confrontation. Shen Ying, the true manager, identifies an intruder disguised as her assistant, Lone Moon. Despite the impostor's attempts to mask his presence, the illusion shatters, leading to a desperate struggle against forces from a distant, unknown plane. The intruder realizes he has been exposed and attempts a self-explosion to destroy his surroundings. With lightning reflexes, Yi King intervenes, unleashing a torrential rain of sword energy to contain the blast and neutralize the threat before it can consume the heavenly palace. Though the immediate threat is neutralized, it leaves behind haunting evidence, strange, blood-stained ice crystals. Yi King is overcome with terror, realizing just how vulnerable the plane has become to these external parasites. The revelation is grim. This was only a scout. Through her plane interface, Shen Ying discovers that an entire small world, the Mushroom Realm, has been completely corrupted by these invaders. A grave warning sounds across the entire plane. Guided by a plane-wide alert, they arrive at the border of the immortal and demonic realms. A gargantuan rift, a realm gate, has opened, leaking chaotic energy and threatening to swallow the world. The invasion has truly begun. Yi King immediately attempts to seal the encroaching rift with powerful divine arrays. However, the gate is too expansive, and mountain-sized ice crystals begin to force their way through, shattering the barriers faster than he can forge them. The intruders unleash a plane encapsulation seal, isolating them from their own reality. In this disconnected, artificial space, Yi King's powers are severely dampened, and the invaders move to trap them permanently within a growing, icy tomb. Escaping the seal, they find themselves surrounded by the realm's strongest defenders. Amidst the chaos of battle, Little Black makes a desperate, out-of-place plea to Yu Hong, highlighting the absurdity of their dire predicament. Using dark, demonic energy, the defenders finally force the invaders out of hiding. The truth is sickening. Hundreds of figures appear, each bearing the face and skills of their friend Lone Moon. These are hollow, replicated drones. Yi Qián sheds his mortal limitations, shifting into his true draconic form. His divine presence commands the sky, turning the tide as the clone army begins to crumble like brittle glass under his assault. But the battle is not yet won. The glacier expands, and a sneak attack aims for Shen Ying's back. Yi Qián dives in to protect her, taking the blow and falling wounded, while Shen Ying is dragged into a deeper isolation layer. Isolated and trapped, Shen Ying finally faces the mastermind behind the invasion. It is the real body of the entity that had held Lone Moon captive. He taunts her, claiming that this plane is destined to be his prize. The villain makes a fatal mistake by mocking the wounded Yi Qián. Shen Ying's restraint snaps. She unleashes a terrifying, raw power that shatters the surrounding reality, her icy composure replaced by a bone-chilling intent to destroy. With a singular, devastating display of power, Shen Ying annihilates the ice prison and the intruder's constructs. She rushes to Yi Qián, her touch acting as a conduit of restoration, mending his broken form instantly. Hours later, order is restored. Shen Ying sits in the palace hall, consuming a massive feast with intense focus, while the high-ranking officials who had been possessed sit silently, nursing their bruises and contemplating the close brush with oblivion. Lone Moon, his face swollen from the earlier chaos, complains bitterly about the intensity of Shen Ying's methods. She dismisses his complaints with icy logic, reminding him that his incompetence made the drastic measures necessary. Victory comes with a hidden cost. Having exhausted her reserves to save her companions, Shen Ying collapses, plunging into a deep, unconscious state. The realization hits them. She has pushed herself beyond the breaking point. In her weakened state, Shen Ying reverts to an even younger, 3-year-old form. The sight of her tiny, vulnerable figure melts Lone Moon's heart, awakening a protective, doting fatherly instinct he never knew he possessed. Desperate to secure the remaining corrupted world, they travel to the divine realm. Lone Moon is utterly smitten, treating the toddler version of Shen Ying as his precious daughter, oblivious to everything but her happiness. They focus on their mission. Combining their powers as full assistants, they reverse the mystic realm creation spell. With a surge of divine effort, they pluck the corrupted mushroom world from the plane, sealing the contagion away. Their victory is short-lived. A new, terrifying entity emerges, the manager of the foreign plane. He has been tracking them, and now, with the corruption sealed, he confronts the group, viewing the young Shen Ying as a weak prize to be taken. The foreign manager is brutal, crushing their defenses and systematically destroying Yi Qián and Lone Moon. As the toddler watches in horror, her tiny hands become stained with the blood of her guardians, and her restraint finally breaks. The toddler screams for her sister, Shen Jing. Her raw, sorrowful wails trigger a massive, plane-wide seismic event. The reality of the divine realm begins to shatter under the weight of her distress, startling the arrogant manager. Shen Jing arrives, a force of nature. She intercepts the manager's attack with ease, her presence radiating a chilling, divine authority that dwarfs his own. She does not hesitate, unleashing a storm of retribution for the harm caused to her sister. Shen Jing dismantles the invader, her movements a blur of lethal efficiency. She treats him as a nuisance to be erased, delivering a brutal beatdown that systematically strips away his arrogance and life force. With the intruder erased, Shen Jing turns her icy gaze toward Lone Moon and Yi Qián. Her sister pleads for their lives, forcing Shen Jing to hold back her wrath, but the wild men, as she calls them, remain under the shadow of her intense disapproval. Shen Jing restores Shen Ying's strength and stability, turning the toddler back into her 15-year-old self. The transition is swift, leaving the group to grapple with the awkward dynamic between the sisters and the guardians. After a brief, stinging reprimand, Shen Jing vanishes through a portal, leaving behind a complex legacy. Shen Ying stands in the silence, feeling the weight of her sister's expectations and the lingering, awkward tension between her and her protectors. The battle is won, but the group must now face the reality of their journey together. Shen Ying attempts to re-establish her authority and composure, masking the vulnerable child she had been just moments before. Taking the initiative, Yi Qián channels the assistant's power to fully purge the realm. The plane tree glows with renewed health, its leaves turning from pale yellow back to vibrant, living gold, signaling the complete resolution of the crisis. The threat is extinguished. With the world healing, they prepare to return home. For the first time, Yi King stands as an equal, his growth solidified, ready to face whatever future awaits them in the invincible sect. Lone Moon sighs, exhausted but triumphant. The danger has passed, and they have survived against impossible odds. His thoughts shift toward the daily life of the sect and the complex bonds that now define their family of warriors. She recognizes the depth of her protector's loyalty. Even though her sister remains a distant, terrifying figure in the sky, she knows she is not alone. The path forward is theirs to build. And so, the invincible sect returns to its quiet existence, carrying the weight of a war that the rest of the world will never know. The era of the foreign invaders is over, and the era of their bond begins. In the aftermath of the devastation that struck the invincible sect, the landscape lay in ruins. While Lone Moon shouldered the burden of reconstruction, Shen Ying and Yi King retreated into an idle existence, marking the beginning of a strange new dynamic between the master and her devoted chef. Shen Ying's strange behavior escalated, her focus drifting toward the most peculiar request, demanding that her disciple remove his garments. Unbeknownst to the confused Yi King, her actions were rooted in the belief that he was still reeling from the trauma of her older sister's past disapproval. Driven to the edge of his composure, Yi King made a desperate, trembling proposal: a marriage, once the burdens of the sect were lifted. The confession caught Shen Ying off guard, but her simple acceptance sent the young man into a state of bewildered, soaring ecstasy. The following morning, Lone Moon arrived to find his companion still drifting in morning lethargy. He had come with a heavy heart, determined to discuss the future of the invincible sect, oblivious to the momentous change in his companion's relationship. Lone Moon proposed a radical shift. The sect must distance itself from the dangerous conflicts plaguing the plane. He argued that the weight of their duties should no longer crush the disciples, and it was time for them to step back from administrative control. As the conversation drew to a close, a sudden revelation struck Lone Moon. He realized that the lazy, gluttonous Shen Ying had fully returned to her true, formidable self. The shock was palpable, shifting from confusion to a mixture of relief and irritation at her late disclosure. The transition of power met immediate resistance. Yu Hong and the devoted disciples of the invincible sect flatly refused to accept the position of sect master. They viewed the leadership of the original masters as an unbreakable bond, defying even the most logical arguments for succession. Compromise became the only path forward. Lone Moon decided to appoint Yu Hong and Si Yu as guardians, effectively managing the sect while keeping the formal titles intact. The decision, coupled with Si Yu's sudden imperial ascension, marked a new era for the invincible sect. The lingering awkwardness between the master and disciple remained, punctuated by Yi King's visible agitation whenever Lone Moon hinted at their previous secret proposal. The weight of their secret and the impending trial of the sisters' potential wrath loomed over them. Lone Moon finally extracted the truth from Shen Ying, learning that a proposal had indeed occurred. The realization that his companions had moved so far beyond the boundaries of convention left him flabbergasted, struggling to maintain his composure against their casual displays of affection. With a sudden, bold move, Shen Ying pulled Yi King into a kiss, commanding him to meet her in her quarters. The public display caught both the disciple and the exasperated Lone Moon completely off guard, cementing their unconventional commitment before retreating into the shadows. In the privacy of her room, the atmosphere shifted. Shen Ying, with uncharacteristic intensity, pushed forward, only to be stopped by Yi King's desperate inquiry. He needed to know if her promise of marriage remained true, despite the looming, lethal threat of her older sister. Reassured by her confirmation, the fear in Yi King's heart transformed into a resolute ambition. He abandoned his immediate impulses, instead declaring his need to achieve a level of strength that could withstand the legendary wrath of the older sister. He surged forth, intent on training. Yi King dove into a period of extreme isolation and training. His sword techniques became dangerously erratic and devastating, laying waste to the sect's structures as he sought to push his cultivation to the absolute peak in preparation for the trial to come. As the sect struggled to contain Yi Qing's destructive training, an urgent interruption arrived. The country emperor of East Sui had descended upon the palace, demanding a private audience with the celestial emperor Yi Qing, claiming the matter was of the utmost urgency. The visitor was Yóu Qián, a man previously known for his defiance. Now he was a broken shell of his former self, kneeling in supplication. He claimed that a dire crisis plagued his lands, a crisis involving the cessation of all immortal ascensions in his region. The tale of the locked realm gate seemed logical at first, yet Lone Moon found gaping holes in Yóu Qián's narrative. He scrutinized the records of recent ascensions, discovering a bizarre, impossible concentration of new immortals in the East Sui region that defied all natural laws. Determined to unveil the truth, the trio vanished into a spatial rift. They arrived in a sprawling immortal city, where they sought to investigate the mysterious array that Yóu Qián claimed was merely a connection for kin, but which clearly functioned as something far more sinister. Yi Qing examined the city's array, immediately sensing the sinister corruption. It was not merely a gateway. It was a lock, a seal forged from death energy that prohibited anyone from ascending, effectively siphoning the destiny of the lower realms into this single, isolated location. Returning to the divine realm, they realized the true horror. The realm gate of that specific world was sealed by an authoritative energy, the heavenly Tao itself. The realization that they were dealing with a corrupted cycle of existence forced them to prepare for an immediate investigation. As they breached the gate to the affected world, a sudden, inexplicable separation occurred. Lone Moon and Yi Qing found themselves in a bustling marketplace, while Shen Ying, the master of getting lost, had vanished into the unknown depths of the city. In the depths of a forbidden forest, Shen Ying encountered a portly, desperate man named Huey Z. He was a man on the run, terrified of being hunted and clearly terrified of her calm, indifferent presence in such a dangerous territory. To hide from their pursuers, Shen Ying performed a feat of casual destruction, shattering the mountain face to create a hiding spot. Huey Z, who had viewed her as a defenseless mortal, began to realize that his companion was far more than she seemed. Their rescue arrived in the nick of time. Lone Moon and Yi Qing, having tracked the disturbances, found the duo huddled in the cave. The reunion was brief, as Lone Moon immediately began to berate Shen Ying for her reckless wandering, while Yi Qing remained ever vigilant. Even in the face of pursuit, the master refused to skip dinner. As Yi Qing whipped up a feast in the middle of the wilderness, Huey Z, a witness to the strangest survival strategy he had ever seen, found himself sharing a meal with these bizarre, powerful entities. With the promise of payment, Lone Moon's attitude transformed from irritation to extreme cooperation. He accepted the spirit stones from Huey Z, pledging to escort the man away from the reach of the Imperial Sacred Sect, setting them on a path toward the extreme south. The journey southward was surprisingly uneventful. Despite the heavy presence of the Imperial Sacred Sect, the group moved with ease, unnoticed by those hunting them. Huey Z, bewildered and grateful, found his path to freedom paved by the presence of his strange new allies. Lone Moon dedicated days to unraveling the mystery of the divine arrival world. Despite his diligence, every lead seemed to hit a dead end, leaving him to wonder why the heavenly Tao had been driven to such drastic measures as locking the gate. Their peace was shattered by the arrival of an unexpected guest, Huey Z, who crashed through the roof of their inn. Surrounded by pursuers from the divine Imperial sect, the group had to rely on Lone Moon's cunning to deflect suspicion and secure a new lodging. The price of their protection was settled, and once again, spirit stones swayed Lone Moon's moral compass. Huey Z, now firmly under their protection, was unaware that the price he paid was the only thing standing between him and being discarded into the wilderness. Leaving the city behind, they were struck by the realization that their progress was being tracked with impossible precision. Every turn, every checkpoint, was heavily guarded by divine Imperial sect disciples. The mystery of how they were being found began to gnaw at Lone Moon. The discovery was damning. The vein pearl Huey Z carried was rigged with a tracking seal. Before they could react, a signal flare burst into the sky, exposing their location to a cadre of high-level cultivators waiting to ambush them. Ambushed by divine Imperial sect elders, Lone Moon stood alone against overwhelming odds. As his companions retreated, he was forced into a confrontation where his mastery of arrays would be tested against the sect's best and brightest. In the midst of the battle, Huey made a desperate intervention, revealing himself to his captors. His sudden appearance brought the fighting to a screeching, silent halt as the sect elders bowed in unexpected deference to their supposed sect master. The deception of the grand ceremony crumbled as Yi King intervened. Assuming his dragon form, he unleashed a divine lightning strike that stripped the ascending cultivator of his powers, exposing the fraudulent nature of the blood array and the sacrifice at its core. With the veil of deceit lifted, they uncovered the truth of Huey's existence. He was a living battery, his spirit roots suppressed by a cruel, artificial array. As Lone Moon shattered the barrier, the latent potential of the mortal man exploded, revealing the final piece of the mystery. After the mysterious sealing array in his mind was dissolved, Huey, a previously talentless mortal, suddenly experienced a surge of immense power. His spirit roots fully restored to a rare 5-elemental type, and a nascent soul forming within him instantly, defying all common logic of the cultivation world. Sensing the rapidly approaching lightning tribulation that threatened to overwhelm the unprepared fatty, Lone Moon acted quickly, dragging him to an open field to brace for the inevitable strike. Understanding that Huey possessed immense raw power but zero experience, Lone Moon set up powerful, non-native immortal arrays to safeguard him, knowing the intensity of a tribulation born from skipping 4 stages would be far beyond the norm. The heavens descended with ferocity, yet each terrifying bolt of lightning mysteriously dissipated before it could even graze the fatty, as if the lightning tribulation itself were afraid to touch him. While the world witnessed an impossible spectacle, Shen Ying simply continued her snack, seemingly unimpressed by the divine display occurring before her eyes. As the tribulation concluded, a magnificent montage of divine beasts appeared in the heavens, bestowing a final blessing that pushed Huey's cultivation into the late stages of the nascent soul realm. Lone Moon cursed the heavens for the excessive display, while Yi King sensed a shift. Huey's sudden ascension had actually loosened the rigid, ancient locks holding the realm gate itself. Shen Ying approached the bewildered new cultivator, greeted him as an old friend, and signaled that the danger had passed, leaving Huey confused but relieved. The peace was short-lived. 23 hostile cultivators, sensing the disturbance, converged upon their location, intent on capturing the man who had caused such a massive heavenly phenomenon. Lone Moon remained unfazed by the threat, confident that these greedy cultivators were merely walking into a trap set by his own powerful disciples. With a cold command from Lone Moon, Yi King stepped forward, his sword aura erupting with enough intensity to make even the seasoned enemies tremble in midair. Desperate to settle his own past grievances, Huey pleaded with the elders to refrain from intervening, wanting to reclaim his own justice through the newfound power he had finally obtained. Before Huey could even finish his plea, Shen Ying declared her hunger, causing Yi King to abandon his combat stance and prioritize setting up a makeshift kitchen for his master's meal. The confused cultivators searched the nearby cottage, unable to sense the group merely meters away due to the interference, eventually leaving in frustration to continue their search elsewhere. Having survived the ordeal, Huey realized his own profound ignorance, and driven by both gratitude and the need for survival, begged Lone Moon to accept him and teach him the ways of cultivation. Lone Moon was horrified by Huey's intense, misguided sincerity, as the fatty offered to cut off his own flesh to show his loyalty, misunderstanding the elder's stern caution about the dangers of his own body. The training proved to be a nightmare for Lone Moon. Despite his nascent soul cultivation, Huey could not stay mounted on a flying sword to save his life, destroying more spirit swords than Lone Moon could afford. In an attempt to bypass Huey's inability to control lesser spirit swords, Yi King offered him a superior immortal weapon, hoping its natural affinity would help him stabilize his flight. The group traveled deep into the southernmost reaches, arriving at a mysterious land shielded by a natural array, and a river formed entirely of condensed spirit energy. Unable to cross the river due to the adverse reaction caused by their own cultivation, Lone Moon discovered that Huey's body acted as a perfect bridge. He wasted no time in physically launching the fatty across to create a path. Once inside the southern land, they were immediately confronted by a 9th-level wind beast. a creature feared by most for its incredible speed and razor-sharp wind blades. With a casual flick of his wrist, Yi King decimated the wind beast, leaving the local snake demon master paralyzed with absolute fear as his prized beast was reduced to dinner. They arrived at the demon palace only to find that their intended diplomatic target, the wolf monarch, had been accidentally crushed to death by the sheer force of their arrival, leaving a power vacuum in the region. Seeking a peaceful transition of power to curb the brutal habits of the local demons, Lone Moon demanded a rabbit, and the Beast Kings complied by bringing an entire army of them. After scanning the herd, Lone Moon selected the rabbit with the highest cultivation and forcefully appointed him the new demon monarch, tasking him with the job of reigning in the region. Under Lone Moon's relentless, iron-fisted instruction, Huey Z's training shifted from sword riding to a rigorous all-rounded curriculum encompassing elixirs, arrays, and mental cultivation. The bond between the bullied fatty and the timid rabbit monarch deepened as they commiserated over their shared plight, both living under the constant, demanding scrutiny of Lone Moon. Upon realizing the two wastrels had sneaked off to hunt for snacks and recipes in the immortal city, Lone Moon discovered they had left behind paper effigies to keep up the charade. Lone Moon tracked the duo to a city where they were being chased by outraged shopkeepers, whose kitchens and alchemy rooms had been reduced to ashes in their reckless attempt to master new recipes. Lone Moon successfully bullied the shopkeepers into refunding the spirit stones they had swindled from his companions, turning a chaotic disaster into a lucrative collection mission. The duo revealed their true motive. They had been investigating elixirs laced with soul-extracting herbs, which forced a cultivator to undergo an abnormal, premature reincarnation without passing through the underworld. Years of training culminated when the divine imperial sect finally arrived to claim Huey Z, only to find a transformed man whose power now rivaled the very elders who once exploited him. Refusing their hypocritical offers of salvation, Huey Z stood his ground against the sect elders, ready to sever his ties and reclaim the justice he had been denied for so long. Supported by the rabbit monarch and his own hard-won mastery of all 5 elements, Huey Z embraced the coming battle, his journey from a discarded mortal to a powerhouse finally complete. The clash of spirits and steel erupted over the Spirit River, a final, definitive battle that would determine whether Huey Z would be shackled to his past or ascend as his own master. In the southern land, the divine imperial sect leader Sun Yu desperately tried to rally the various sects to unite against the demon clans. But just as the cultivators hesitated, a thunderous roar erupted, shaking the very foundations of the earth. A tidal wave of black demonic beasts surged forward, an uncountable host that made the forest seem trivial. The cultivators' faces drained of color as they realized the 7th and final demon monarch had appeared. To everyone's bewilderment, the 7 demon monarchs of the southern land knelt before Rabbit, acknowledging her as the myriad demon king. The power dynamic shifted instantly. The human sects were paralyzed by fear. Sensing the overwhelming pressure, Fatty stepped forward. He insisted this battle was his burden to bear, shielding Rabbit and her demon army from the risk of a full-scale interspecies war. The duel began. Sun Yu, a powerful traveling immortal, unleashed a crushing net of spirit Kai, intending to end the conflict in one swift blow. Fatty, however, held his ground with unwavering focus. In a display of speed and tactical genius, Fatty vanished from within the net, reappearing behind his opponent. A single kick sent the arrogant immortal crashing into the earth, covered in humiliating mud. Fatty followed up with an onslaught of fire dragons, their flames dancing with lethal lightning. Sun Yu's desperate attempts to extinguish the blaze with water only served to supercharge the electrical storm, overwhelming him. Seeing their leader defeated by a soul formation cultivator, the disciples scrambled to intervene. The battle escalated into a chaotic brawl as multiple cultivators launched a desperate, coordinated strike against Fatty. Nearby, a trio watched the spectacle with nonchalance. They wagered on how many opponents Fatty could handle, treating the life-or-death struggle like a trivial afternoon show. Fatty's prowess with array formations was nothing short of miraculous. Despite being outnumbered, he turned the battlefield into his own playground, trapping his aggressors in a complex web of shifting elements. As the hours ticked by, exhaustion clawed at his spirit. Wounds coated his body and his robes were stained red, yet Fatty remained upright, He knew he could not afford to lose this fight. Facing certain defeat, Fatty tapped into a hidden, massive reservoir of Kai. His physique expanded, transforming into a gargantuan rubber-like sphere that smashed through their final trapping array effortlessly. With a thunderous crash, the sphere dropped from the sky, flattening the arrogant cultivators like dumplings. The ground groaned and splintered under the immense pressure of his retaliation. He had won. As he stood amidst the debris of his enemies, the tension in his muscles finally faded. He turned to Rabbit, his heart swelling with the pride of having kept his promise. But treachery lurked. Sun Yu, refusing to accept defeat, unleashed a forbidden immortal artifact, the soul-capturing umbrella. The atmosphere turned cold and heavy, paralyzing all who stood beneath it. Just as the artifact prepared to consume Fatty's soul, a melodic Buddhist chant echoed across the horizon. A monk descended on a lotus platform, his presence instantly neutralizing the lethal aura of the umbrella. The monk, known as Chan Jai of the Yóu Qián court, silenced the crowd with his mere presence. He effortlessly confiscated the immortal artifact, his calm demeanor radiating a profound sense of moral authority. To seal the fate of the divine imperial sect, Lone Moon stepped forward and revealed a shadow-preserving stone. It displayed the horrific reality of their sect, sacrificing Fatty's blood and flesh for their own advancement. The truth exposed, Chan Jai passed judgment. He ordered the sect to cripple their ill-gotten cultivation and forbade them from leaving their grounds for 300 years, ensuring justice would finally be served. Recognizing the danger Fatty still faced from those who coveted his unique constitution, Chan Jai offered him asylum in the Yóu Qián court, a place pure enough to shelter him from the world's bloodlust. Accepting the invitation, the group set off on a luxurious spirit boat toward the Yóu Qián court. The journey took them across the uncrooked sea, a place of treacherous winds and heavy yin energy. In the quiet of the boat, a tender moment transpired. As they neared their destination, Yi King and Shen Ying shared a brief, unspoken connection, a moment of sweetness amidst the looming mysteries of the Yóu Qián court. Finally, the Yóu Qián court emerged from the mist. It stood as a bastion of golden light in the middle of a dark, oppressive ocean, its ancient temples glowing with a divine, merit-filled radiance. The group settled into their guest quarters. As Chan Jai guided them through the halls, they noted the strange, perfectionist harmony of the disciples, each glowing with the same eerie, golden merit light. Suspicion clawed at Lone Moon. The lotus pond, central to the court's heritage, radiated an unnatural golden glow. He felt a deep, instinctive dread, sensing that the merit of this place was born from something sinister. The tranquility shattered 1 month later. An earthquake tore through the court, and from deep beneath the mountain, a chilling, ancient yin energy burst forth, forcing everyone into a state of panic. Chan Jai and his elders were frantically holding a failing seal. They claimed a ferocious ancient beast was trying to break free, and they begged the group for help to hold the barrier. It was a trap. The moment they stepped in to help, the seal collapsed, dragging them into a hidden dimension. They plummeted into darkness, leaving the manipulative monks laughing at their apparent capture. In the void, a supposed ancient ferocious beast lunged, but Shen Ying, bored by its foul breath, simply slapped it. To everyone's shock, the terror whimpered like a stray cat and hid its head in the mud. They broke through to a lower chamber and uncovered the horrifying truth. The merit of Yóu Qián court was stolen. The entire pond bed was a mass grave of Fatty's previous incarnations, harvested for his unique essence. Lone Moon, his heart burning with righteous fury, unleashed his power. With a single wave, he stripped the stolen light of merit from every false monk below, revealing the rotting, demon-tainted skin underneath. Desperate, the monks summoned their patron from the immortal realm. A figure descended through a divine light, arrogantly demanding to know who dared disturb their grand harvest of Fatty's essence. But the heavenly Tao would not be silent. Seeing the corruption, the skies darkened, and lightning of every color began to punish the impostors. The very order they sought to exploit turned against them in a divine purge. With the cycle of abuse shattered, Fatty ascended. No longer a tool for their greed, he rose as a true god. The plane began to heal, and the group left the ruins behind, destined for a new mission. The stage for the grand duel was set, the invitation sent into the void. Yet, as the sun climbed and dipped, the empty field remained silent. Lone Moon, the self-appointed architect of this new era, realized with a jolt of irony that he had used a language the natives simply could not read. It was the ever-hungry Shen Ying who pointed out the obvious. In a world without written laws, a written invitation was nothing more than a scrap of paper. The realization hit the powerhouses like a physical blow. Strategy changed from diplomacy to force. Chef took to the field, dispatching the leaders of the 12 divine races with elegant efficiency and gathering ingredients for the evening meal in the process. With the leaders bound like rice dumplings, the new curriculum was presented. The invincible civil and military academy had officially begun its forceful recruitment drive, and the gods were the unwilling first batch of students. The posters were not just paper, they carried the force of a divine transmission. A booming voice filled their minds with promises of a perfect new era and the secrets to becoming as strong as the man who had just dismantled their pride. The marketing was a success. Tens of thousands of divine beings flooded the gates of the Purple Night Palace, drawn by a mixture of curiosity, fear, and the desperate hope of attaining real power. A problem arose. These gods were functionally illiterate and lacked any foundation in learning. The committee met, and the search for a teacher began in earnest. In a stroke of unexpected inspiration, the choice fell upon the rabbit demon. Plucked from its throne in the Demon Monarch Palace, the creature was thrust into the role of a divine tutor. Forced onto the podium, the rabbit faced the sea of gods with trembling legs. Yet, supported by an array that amplified his voice and projection, he steeled his heart and opened the Book of Enlightenment. With the first lesson, the chaotic divine race fell into an awed, stunned silence. The rabbit's voice echoed, teaching them the most fundamental of human verses, his nagging becoming the soundtrack to their new existence. What started as fear evolved into a routine of endless, soul-numbing lectures. If a student misbehaved, the rabbit did not use violence. It used words, nagging until the gods doubted their own divinity. When words failed, the discipline master arrived. Chef's sword was the final arbiter of discipline, ensuring that even the most stubborn gods understood the necessity of paying attention. 3 years passed in this grueling rhythm. The rabbit's persistence paid off, and the foundation of literacy was laid. Lone Moon decided it was time to move on to the next, more complex stage of their indoctrination. Next came the lesson on morphing. Lone Moon demanded perfection, and the gods, unused to such strict discipline, found themselves trapped in a cycle of endless, humiliating revisions. To drive the lesson home, the kitchen was moved to the lecture hall. The threat was clear. Those who failed to master the human form would eventually be treated as nothing more than livestock, destined for the dinner table. Fear was a powerful motivator. In less than 2 years, the unruly gods had transformed into a refined, handsome, and beautiful collective. The standards of the divine race were raised in a single sweep. Finally, Lone Moon introduced the third course, the understanding of the heavenly Tao. He laid out the foundational rules of the universe, the boundaries that ensured the survival of the plane and the nature of life and reincarnation. The world itself began to react. As thousands of gods resonated with the teachings of Tao, the very atmosphere of the plane shifted. Spirit rain fell, and for the first time, the nascent heavenly Tao began to take shape. With the divine race on track, Lone Moon turned his attention to the mortal continent. Their arrival at a human town was met not with welcome, but with the sharp tips of spears and demands for a pass. The pass to prove one's humanity, it turned out, was simply food. In a world plagued by human-eating monsters, giving away food was the ultimate proof of being human. Suspicion grew in Lone Moon's mind. His 2 companions were acting far too obedient, and their storage bags were suspiciously well-stocked. He realized that they had been secretly preparing for their own comfort all along. In the deep woods, they encountered a squirrel demon with terrible acting skills, trying to sell mushrooms. It was a pathetic attempt at deception, but behind the silliness lay a desperate plea for help. The demon's friend, a human child named Little Flower, had been captured by a tiger king. The squirrel's tears were genuine, a stark contrast to the monsters they were used to dealing with. They reached the tiger king's den, but found only grim reminders of the demon's hunger. Little Flower was gone, and the brutal reality of this plane's survival of the fittest was laid bare. Returning to the town, Lone Moon orchestrated a display of divine power. A massive barrier enveloped the town, and a giant sword of light descended from the heavens to end the Tiger King's terror. The mortal awe was palpable. With a few parting words about the immortal mountain, Lone Moon had effectively branded the town with the idea of their sect. Returning to the sect, he found the Purple Night Palace itself had been relocated, plucked by Shen Ying to save on building time. His frustration was tempered by the efficiency of his two troublesome disciples. The recruitment drive had begun. A ladder of ascension tested the spirit and intent of the mortal hopefuls. Only the most determined and pure-hearted reached the summit. Among the disciples was a young boy who had carried his sister up the ladder, a feat of sheer will. His desperate plea to heal her captured the attention of the masters. In an unexpected twist of fate, the boy possessed an innate sword embodiment. For Lone Moon, who had long despaired of finding a worthy sword disciple, this was a moment of pure, unexpected triumph. The sect began to thrive. Shen Ying spent her days watering a garden of mushrooms cultivated by Mushroom, whose unique ability could transmute immortal energy into spirit Kai, a secret foundation for their sect's growth. But training was dangerous. During an experiential outing, a group of students, led by the arrogant disciple Cheng Dong, blamed their dire predicament on Shen Ying's presence, ignorant of the protection they had actually been under. Their arrogance was their downfall. Ignoring their pleas, Lone Moon stripped them of their cultivation and cast them out. He would not tolerate fools who lacked gratitude, no matter their potential. After transmigrating into this world, the mortal woman originally named Shen Ying, now living as the protagonist under the same name, had become the centerpiece of the sect's unconventional education. Lone Moon, watching his disciples grow arrogant and detached, realized that his method of sheltering them was failing. He decided to act, setting into motion a grand plan to force the world into self-growth. Lone Moon decided to become the architect of this world's cultivation evolution. He began distributing secret books and jade slips across the continent like a gardener sowing seeds in a vast field, hoping to awaken the latent power of the masses. Every treasure dropped was meticulously recorded against the debt of Hong Meng. It was a painful, yet necessary sacrifice for the greater good of the mortal continent. Time slipped away as the disciples refined their skills. Jian Xing, a prodigy of the sword, excelled under the rigorous pressure of the sword arrays, his potential finally beginning to bloom. The time for the experiential training had arrived. Lone Moon decided to personally lead the expedition, dragging an unwilling Shen Ying along to ensure she wouldn't starve in his absence. At the immortal Ascension Rock, the makeshift god-begging rock, Lone Moon discovered a plea from Kwahang City. A strange, inexplicable lethargy had gripped its citizens, calling for aid. Just as the group prepared to depart, a familiar voice rang out. Zhai Lin, the younger sister of Jian Xing, appeared, aged and weary, seeking a chance to atone for her past sins. Lone Moon was unmoved by her display of repentance. He saw through her lack of genuine understanding regarding her past transgressions, his icy demeanor making it clear she held no place in his sect. Torn between his sister's plight and the expectations of his master, Jian Xing ultimately chose the path of duty, leaving Zhai Lin behind as the party departed for Kwahang City. As they rode their swords through the sky, Shen Ying turned back to look at Jian Xing. Her inexplicable, wide smile left the disciple feeling strangely anxious and profoundly uneasy. Upon arriving at Kwahang City, the group found it cloaked in a heavy, unnatural silence. The streets were devoid of the usual evening life, a chilling reminder of the mysterious illness plaguing the city. Fatty alerted Lone Moon to the presence of Ghost Kai. The realization struck. This was no demon. It was a hungry spirit preying on human souls, growing strong enough to potentially ascend to Ghost King status. The situation escalated when Shen Ying vanished. Lone Moon, frantic, realized that even a slight lack of supervision led to catastrophe when it came to his favorite foodie. A bell tolled, a sound that vibrated through the very spirit of the city. Zhai Lin, who had been tailing them, collapsed, her soul trembling as it began to rip away from her body. Stepping outside, the group beheld a nightmare. The entire city was walking in their sleep, their souls forcefully extracted, driven toward an unknown destination by a sinister, invisible force. In the center of the possessed throng, they found Shen Ying. She was not controlled. She was simply, deeply, and blissfully asleep, snoring softly even while the souls of the living were ripped away around her. Lone Moon handled Shen Ying as if she were made of fragile glass, fearing that if he woke her, some catastrophic outburst would follow. The disciples watched, dumbfounded, as their master demonstrated extreme, quiet maternal instinct. The disciples followed the crowd, passing through a mist only to find themselves back inside Kwahang City. But it was not the same city. It was a bustling nightmare, a dreamscape created by the ghost. The dream world turned violent. A monstrous beast erupted from the darkness, tearing down city walls and feeding on the souls of the terrified dreamers, its presence overwhelming and bloodthirsty. Unable to watch the slaughter, Jian Xing and his comrades launched their assault. They fought with desperation, unaware that they were tearing apart the fragile fabric of the dream world itself. With a single strike against the city gate, the dream shattered. The illusion crumbled, throwing the disciples back into the cold, dark reality, leaving them vomiting blood and gasping for air. Back in the city, Lone Moon had been working to anchor the souls of the residents. He looked up at the rising sun, watching as Shen Ying finally opened her eyes with a sleepy greeting. They tracked the ghost to a deep cave. Lone Moon was shocked to see the thick, suffocating ghost Kai naturally parting before Shen Ying, as if she were a god walking through a storm. The half-ascended ghost king attempted to flee, lunging toward them. But its last desperate blow was effortlessly snatched out of the air by Shen Ying, as if she were catching a wayward firefly. The battle was won, but the cost was heavy. Zhai Lin had perished in the cave. The disciples mourned, their pride eroded by the bitter reality of the ghost crisis they had nearly worsened. Returning home, the sect was met with a welcome return. Chef Yi King had finally returned. His eyes locked onto Shen Ying, his devotion as constant and sharp as his blade. Peace was short-lived. In the practice yard, Shen Ying suddenly grabbed Mushroom, her expression cold and murderous, shocking the watching disciples who saw only their gentle companion in her grasp. When Jian Xing tried to intervene, Yi King unleashed a storm of sword Kai that shattered the ground. The disciples fell to their knees, their very spirits shaken by the overwhelming power of the chef. The truth was exposed. The ghost of Zhai Lin had possessed Mushroom. Shen Ying ruthlessly tore the soul apart, liberating the trapped fragment of Mushroom's essence. Lone Moon confronted Jian Xing, who had known of the possession all along. The disciples' moral failure, his selfishness, and his attempt to deceive the sect shattered the trust they had built. Lone Moon's firm stance on justice triggered an impossible event, the formation of the new heavenly Tao. As the nomological force descended, he was unexpectedly thrust into the position of the plane manager. The weight of a plane now rested on Lone Moon's shoulders. With a new title, new burdens, and an unexpected invitation to the Big Tao meeting, his journey toward the peak of universal management had truly begun. The story follows Shen Ying, who accidentally transmigrated into a new plane after her own was compromised. Alongside her loyal disciples Yi King and Lone Moon, they explore the complex web of plane management. Here, they discover the existence of the Big Tao organization, an association of managers that handles interplanar issues, though the trio remains suspicious of its true, informal nature. An invitation arrives in the form of a strange fruit, which acts as a gateway to the Big Tao organization. Lone Moon and Yi King, wary but determined, realize they must investigate, leading them to leave their own plane behind, much to the chagrin of their subordinates who fear for their safety. Upon entering the space within the fruit, they are shocked to arrive in a common mortal city, devoid of all magical energy. Their divine powers and immortal Kai have completely vanished, forcing them to navigate this strange land as ordinary mortals. Finding themselves stranded, the trio checks into a local inn, Wuling City, a place seemingly devoid of any other managers or cultivators. Lone Moon relies on his business wit to gather information, but the city seems eerily ordinary, concealing deeper, darker secrets. That night, their suspicions are confirmed when an intruder attempts to poison them. The trio is treated to the sight of an amateurish criminal act, a stark reminder that even in a world without magic, human greed and malice remain a constant threat. With a simple, non-magical flick of the finger, Yi King incapacitates the attacker. It turns out the innkeepers were common bandits, preying on travelers. The trio confronts the reality of the mortal world's harshness, far removed from their high-level cultivation life. They discover a gruesome murder scene in another room, where a traveler has been killed by the inn staff. A young girl, Fang Fang, is found traumatized. The trio intervenes, offering her comfort while trying to make sense of the local authorities' involvement. Fang Fang reveals she was traveling with her grandmother when they were targeted by the bandits. The trio decides to help her find justice, with Lone Moon heading to the city lord's residence, while Yi King and Shen Ying stay behind to watch over the girl. While waiting, an unexpected encounter occurs. A merman, a legendary creature, emerges from the river near the inn, attempting to seduce Shen Ying with an enchanting melody, seemingly unaware of the kind of person he is dealing with. Unimpressed by the merman's attempts to lure her with rare pearls, Shen Ying finally loses her patience when a pearl hits her fruit. She throws the pearl back with such immense force that it slices the river in half and destroys a mountain. Lone Moon returns to find the merman subdued and the landscape drastically altered. The sheer power Shen Ying displayed, even without her divine cultivation, continues to defy the laws of the mortal realm they are currently visiting. City officials arrive to handle the murder case, but are quickly distracted by the rare merman. Their greed is palpable, and they decide to whisk the creature away to the city lord's residence, ignoring the murder investigation entirely. The next morning, the trio is summoned to the city lord's residence. The lord is eager to claim credit for the merman's capture and tries to recruit them, hoping to add them to his private collection of rare creatures. The city lord takes them to his precious creatures garden, an underground space filled with rare, otherworldly beasts and spirit herbs, despite the lack of magical energy in the city. This discovery suggests a much larger, darker secret. The city lord's true colors are revealed. When they refuse to serve him, he triggers a trap, sending them into an underground river inhabited by vicious, man-eating fish, hoping to dispose of them for knowing too much about his illegal operations. With their powers beginning to return, Yi King forces a path through the cave walls, leading them deeper into the underground structure to find the source of the hidden energy. They remain focused, navigating the treacherous environment with ease. They reach a chamber of concentrated energy. Fang Fang, previously a damsel in distress, reveals she is actually a manager herself, acting as an antagonist to lure them into a trap. Her hatred is fueled by the loss of her own plane. Fang Fang admits she has been orchestrating events to trap them, fueled by her desire to destroy anyone associated with the Big Tao organization. She views them as intruders responsible for the collapse of her home, revealing the depths of her suffering. Yi King, furious that she dared to put Shen Ying in a cage, attacks with overwhelming sword energy. The confrontation escalates, revealing that despite her trap, Fang Fang is outmatched by the sheer raw power of the trio. Shen Ying simply reaches out and tears the light prison apart like paper, exposing the absurdity of Fang Fang's struggle. The trio is ready to negotiate, finally revealing they are not the enemies she thought they were. In a sudden shift, the atmosphere turns conversational. They learn that the Big Tao organization systematically destroyed her plane, forcing her to feed on her own origin energy to survive. The trio realizes the complexity of these interplanar conflicts. Shen Ying notices the invisible chains binding the plane's origin energy. With effortless strength, she tears these seals apart, restoring the plane's vitality. The landscape transforms instantly as the void is cleared. The restored plane stabilizes, and the dark void manifests as a clear passage to the true Big Tao organization. They part ways with Fang Fang, who decides to rebuild her home in secret, now free from the organization's grip. The trio finally reaches the actual headquarters of the Big Tao organization. It is a breathtaking, expansive realm of floating stars and light. They feel the heavy atmosphere of a high-level manager's territory as they approach the main hall. They are greeted by a host of skeptical managers. Tu Zhai, arrogant and dismissive, mocks their newcomer status, but the trio's presence and the unique flowering energy beneath their feet surprise even the established members. The boss, Yu Heng, appears, radiating a cold and formidable pressure. He discovers the disappearance of the testing world, and identifying them as the cause, orders them to be disposed of, revealing the organization's true, predatory nature. The confrontation erupts into a full-scale battle. Lone Moon and Yi King fight off a swarm of managers, showing immense skill, while Yu Heng watches from above, planning to consume the other's powers for himself. Yu Heng's attempt to absorb the other managers results in a violent internal reaction. As his body bloats and cracks from the strain, Shen Ying watches with indifference, remarking on his poor decision to overconsume. With one punch, Shen Ying shatters the organization's entire territory, breaking the locks on all the imprisoned planes. The trapped managers fall, liberated from Yu Heng's control and finally free to return home. The trio returns to the Administrative Association, where their exploits precede them. They engage in a casual game of mahjong with the other managers, who are both intimidated and impressed by their power, ending the chapter in a surprisingly domestic fashion. Having dismantled a corrupt organization, the trio finds a quiet moment to reflect. Shen Ying continues to search for answers about her own mysterious changes, while Lone Moon and Yi King contemplate their next steps in the vast, interconnected world of planes. In this realm, the legendary duo of Shen Ying and her disciples have become local gambling sensations. Even with the powerful elders of the sect losing their shirts, Father Niu, known as Lone Moon, reigns supreme, leaving them all in massive debt, while Shen Ying remains characteristically detached from the chaos. As the materials room yields no secrets, Shen Ying exits, only to find an old acquaintance waiting. Myla, a plain assistant with a history as her first love, greets her with unsettling tenderness, causing an immediate, silent tension in the air. Yi King, the ever-loyal chef, watches from the sidelines, feeling a sharp pang of insecurity he's never known before. He realizes his master's history is deeper than he imagined, and the sight of her avoiding his touch leaves him feeling lost. Lone Moon, ever the observant one, connects the dots between Myla and Shen Ying. He realizes the man is her first love, and as he observes the heartbroken chef, he can only silently offer a mental candle of sympathy for his companion. Back at home, Chef's distress manifests in his cooking. His mind is trapped in the past, replaying the scene of Shen Ying with Myla, causing him to mindlessly oversalt the stir-fried pork while his eyes remain fixed on nowhere. Shen Ying finds no clues about her mysterious title in the administrative committee's records. Lone Moon presses her, worried about the strange physiological changes in her body, urging her to find the truth before it's too late. The stakes are high. If Shen Ying asks her sister, Shen Jing, for help, she risks being dragged back home as her sister is a notorious siscon. She decides they must stay under the radar, avoiding any confrontation with her sister at all costs. The tranquility is broken when Myla arrives at the plane gate, having been called by Shen Ying for help. The sudden arrival shocks Chef, who loses his grip on a plate, the sound echoing through the room as his composure fractures. Myla tries to win Shen Ying over with a display of affection, but the intervention of both Lone Moon and Chef forces the situation into a farce. It feels like a scene from a romantic drama, leaving everyone confused about their true relationship. The business at hand is serious. Myla reveals that he has lost a spirit source in the furthest end of the void, a disordered plane where lost beings from terminated worlds drift. Shen Ying agrees to retrieve it, seeing the necessity of the task. After Myla departs, leaving behind lingering tension, Lone Moon tries to soothe Chef's wounded ego. He attempts to convince the young disciple that Shen Ying's past with Myla is irrelevant, but the revelation that there was a past leaves Chef reeling. Late that night, Yi King sits on the roof of Shen Ying's room, unable to sleep or leave, caught in a cycle of jealousy and affection. He keeps his distance, but his presence is heavy with unspoken emotions that Shen Ying finally notices. In the intimacy of the bedroom, the barriers break down. Yi King, usually so reserved, finds himself caught in a whirlwind of emotion as Shen Ying initiates a long-overdue connection, effectively silencing his doubts with her presence. Morning brings a transformation. Chef is no longer the dejected, jealous disciple. He is full of life and purpose, preparing an exquisite meal. Lone Moon is baffled, wondering what miracle or madness has caused such a sudden shift in his demeanor. As they prepare to leave for the void, Lone Moon cannot shake the feeling that something has fundamentally changed between the master and her disciple. Their air is thick with a new, undisguised, and frankly nauseating level of intimacy. Lone Moon finally loses his patience, demanding to know exactly what happened the night before. His frustration hits its peak as he finds himself the unintended witness to a couple's domestic bliss, causing his own irritation to bubble over. Upon entering the chaotic furthest end of the void, they are immediately confronted with a scene of injustice. 3 armed thugs are cornering a young woman in rags, prompting Lone Moon to intervene before the situation spirals out of control. The bullies, who identify themselves as gremlins of varying cultivation levels, try to intimidate Lone Moon. The encounter quickly descends into absurdity as the self-proclaimed chicken gremlin and his peers try to flex their supposed power, unaware they are dealing with beings far beyond their league. The absurdity reaches a breaking point as the thugs demand to know what gremlins our heroes are. Shen Ying identifies as a taste gremlin and Yi King as a human gremlin, while a frustrated Lone Moon declares himself a god gremlin, leaving the thugs confused and the others barely holding back laughter. With a quick flick of his fan, Lone Moon dispatches the thugs, ending the farce with a powerful gust of wind. The thugs vanish into the horizon, leaving behind only the rescued girl and our trio, who are still reeling from the surreal exchange. The rescued girl, Chudao, is overcome with gratitude. She clings to Lone Moon's arm, her gaze lingering a second too long. Lone Moon, playing the part of the hero, decides to escort her back to her home, blissfully unaware of the implications. Chudao offers them shelter for the night. Lone Moon, thinking it a good opportunity to scout for the spirit seed, agrees despite the suspicious glances from his companions. He is once again playing the charismatic hero, much to the amusement of his group. The next morning, the house is abandoned. Lone Moon is missing. His room is completely empty, and the servants from the previous night have vanished. The house feels like an elaborate, ghostly trap, and the trio is left to navigate the mystery on their own. Yi King finds a leaf on the ground that pulses with magic, transforming into a small, weak green demon. He realizes that the servants from the night before were never humans, but simply animated foliage, confirming that Chudao kidnapped Lone Moon. Days pass until a signal comes through the transmission amulet. Lone Moon's voice is frantic, warning them that he is in trouble before the connection abruptly cuts out, leaving them with no location but a clear sense of urgency. The mystery is solved by a public announcement. Empress Tao Chu is holding a grand wedding to make Lone Moon her king. The groom napping is official, and our heroes realize that Lone Moon's own charm and heroics have backfired on him spectacularly. They arrive at the Pink Palace situated atop a giant peach tree. Expecting a fight, they are stunned when the guards welcome them as distinguished guests, revealing that Tao Chu knew they were coming and had planned for their arrival all along. Inside the hall, Lone Moon is seated beside the Empress, acting deeply and sincerely in love. He shows no sign of recognition toward his companions, fully caught in the sway of the Empress's floral magic, and the wedding is set for the very next day. The moment of consummation arrives. As Tao Chu begins to make his move, Yi King bursts through the door, disrupting the trance. But the shock is absolute when the Empress's form changes, revealing a bearded man underneath. Revealed as a peach blossom demon and a man, the Empress is quickly subdued. Terrified for his life, Tao Chu breaks and finally reveals the location of the lost spirit seed, the Immortal Academy in the central district of Yang City. In Yang City, they meet an insect trace informant who confirms that the spirit seed is the grand prize for the upcoming United Tournament held by the Immortal Academy. Our heroes have found their target, but now they must find a way to enter. They enter the competition under the name Invincible Academy, dragging the reluctant and traumatized Buggy along to fulfill the 4-person requirement. The first round begins, and the hunt for the spirit seed is officially underway. In the mystic realm, the competition had transformed into a bizarre marketplace. Lone Moon, the mastermind, turned the high-stakes qualifying trial into a business venture, forcing Yi King and Shen Ying to sell off the realm's rare beasts to buy their way into the next round. With the promise of triple the allowance, the pride of a master and his disciple vanished, replaced by a relentless drive to clear out the mystic realm's fauna. Business was booming, leaving their competitors with nothing but I-O-U-S. 8 days in, the competition was forgotten. The group's final pivot, selling array flags at 1,000,000 void currencies each, sent the remaining contestants into a tailspin as they realized they had completely neglected the actual objective, qualifying. Outside the realm, chaos ensued. Teachers watched in disbelief as top-tier academies plummeted down the leaderboard, their flags bought out by their own desperate students who had prioritized survival over prestige. Shen Ying, having spent 10 days lounging by a river, somehow qualified without lifting a finger. As the first round concluded, the tally revealed the absurdity. Only 75 students had advanced, leaving the majority of the array flags unclaimed. Lone Moon emerged as the undisputed winner of the first round, with his coffers overflowing with void currencies and a mountain of Yóu from every major academy. He felt invincible, already planning his path to total victory in the second round. 3 days later, just before the next round, they encountered Ling Hong, a fellow contestant from the first round. He came not to compete, but to offer his sincere gratitude for their help in the mystic realm. While business was important, Shen Ying and Yi King were preoccupied by a more primal urge: hunger. They waited in agonizing anticipation for a feast, unaware that Lone Moon had just brought their business partner inside for a briefing. Ling Hong brought grave news. The second round would take place in the Academy's 1,000-image array, a legendary formation containing 10,000 subarrays designed by an exalted immortal. The warning didn't end there. Suspicious of the mystic realm outcome, the academies were sending their best teachers, including the strongest, Teacher Yan, to hunt down contestants within the array. Elimination was now a very real possibility. Ling Hong admitted a personal failure. He still hadn't rescued his friend. The red-scented fish monster bones they had purchased were the key, but they were too hard to refine with conventional fire, leaving his friend trapped in a crippled state. Lone Moon, seeing an opportunity to cement their alliance, offered Yi King's services. He knew the true phoenix fire, which Chef possessed, could easily melt the toxins that had defeated the Academy's best attempts. The list of requirements, oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, left Ling Hong completely baffled. He couldn't grasp why a top-tier refinement process required common kitchen seasonings, but he followed instructions anyway, desperate for his brother's recovery. They arrived at Ling Hong's home to find his older brother, Ling Qián, paralyzed from a past mission. His legs were cold, and his dantian was choked with demonic Kai, a tragic victim of the very academy that was supposed to protect him. In seconds, Yi King turned the impossible to refine bones into pure essence. The process that Ling Hong had expected to take days was finished in a heartbeat, leaving the brothers stunned at the display of raw, overwhelming power. Lone Moon observed the primitive medical practices of the Void Land. With no spirit herbs available, they relied on ordinary plants and slow-working tonics, failing to address the deeper, demonic rot within Ling Qián's system. Quietly adding a specialized pill to cleanse the demonic Kai, Lone Moon ensured the medicine would actually work. As Ling Qián drank, the icy aura in his dantian dissipated, replaced by a long-lost warmth. The moment of hope was interrupted by a ringing bell. A golden dagger, an academy summons, burst into the room, its sharp sword Kai aiming directly at Lone Moon. The Immortal Academy had finally come to settle the score. Lone Moon was escorted to the academy for a hearing, facing Teacher Yan and the instigator, Ren King. Ren King, driven by old grudges, had reported the group for cheating during the first round to save his own reputation. Lone Moon dismantled the accusations with ease. When asked for witnesses, Ren King could provide none, having been universally disliked by his peers. Lone Moon twisted the narrative, suggesting that Ren King was simply a sore loser trying to fix the competition. Teacher Yan, realizing he had been played and was on the verge of disgracing his academy, cut the hearing short. He was forced to apologize, leaving Ren King pale and isolated as the group walked away victorious. The second round began. The crowd was sparse and the atmosphere was tense. All eyes turned to the prize, a rainbow-colored egg rumored to contain the essence of the original source, exactly what they had been searching for. The second round required participants to find the exit of a maze in 6 hours. Instead of walking, Shen Ying was accidentally transported directly to the center of the array, where she sat down and started eating melon seeds, baffling the guard. Teacher Yan, who had come to investigate them personally, found himself sharing pastries and tea with Shen Ying. He was thoroughly confused by their nonchalance, unable to reconcile their relaxed demeanor with the experts he had feared. Lone Moon and Yi King arrived at the center, shattering the complex formations in seconds. Yan Luo, realizing they weren't just lucky, decided to test their limits by activating a hidden three-legged firebird, a powerful guardian beast. Yan Luo made a fatal mistake. He threatened Shen Ying to force them to show their strength. The atmosphere instantly shifted. Yi King's sword aura flared, locking the array and forcing the guardian bird into cowering terror. The final round turned into a farce. Lone Moon had offered a 50% discount on debts to anyone who surrendered. As a result, contestant after contestant bowed out, giving him the championship title without a single strike. The betrayal was complete. Instead of the rainbow egg, the Academy handed him immortal stones. The prize had been traded away to the insect race at the last minute, fueling Lone Moon's rage. Without delay, they tracked the insect race to their nest in the north. They found a bleak, tower-like mountain swarming with insect kin, where the queen had developed a strange, hoarding habit, nesting eggs of all species. The queen had attempted to trap them, but the moment she saw Shen Ying, her arrogance vanished. She cowered, immediately offering the egg, trembling with fear as she realized the true identity of the being standing before her. The egg was empty. The spirit seed had already manifested and fled. They returned to Yang City to consult Lingwen Xuan, deducing that the seed had originated from the Flame Mountain, where Lingwen Xuan had suffered his injury. They tracked the seed to the Flame Mountain, a forest where plants had gained sentience. Instead of fighting, they spent their time harvesting the literal mountain of fruits thrown at them by the agitated, sentient trees. Finally locating the spirit seed inside the volcano, they found him manifested as a child, corrupted by demonic Kai. After cleansing him, the child immediately clung to Lone Moon, calling him father, a complication that left them all speechless. The boundaries of the plains are fragile things. After Shen Jing confronts them about their sudden interest in monitor qualifications, the group is forced to reveal their true identities and the existence of the Big Tao organization, a group of planes that consume others to grow. Lone Moon reveals the existence of the Big Tao organization. Shen Jing, usually composed, finds herself alarmed. For even a monitor, the true extent of these invasive planes had remained hidden behind a veil of ignorance. Shen Jing unravels the truth. Myla believed that Shen Ying possessed the potential to become a monitor, which is why he lured her into the Void Land. But Shen Jing knows better. Shen Ying's power is something far more mysterious and unquantifiable. The question of what exactly Shen Ying is remains an enigma that even a monitor cannot solve. As they talk, the past, the origin of Shen Ying, and the history of the plane begin to blur together in a web of ancient secrets. Just as Shen Jing prepares to depart, Yi King steps forward. He performs a formal, courageous gesture, declaring his intention to take Shen Ying as his wife, seeking the sisters' blessing in a move that shocks everyone present. The divine realm holds its breath. Asking for a woman's hand in such a manner, with such audacity, is bound to trigger a storm. Lone Moon silently prepares for the imminent destruction of the realm as Shen Jing's fury begins to bubble. The tension breaks with the arrival of the child. When the spirit seed calls Shen Jing aunt and refers to Shen Ying and Lone Moon as mummy and daddy, the absurdity of the situation forces a sudden, comedic shift in the confrontation. Seeing the resemblance between the child and her nephew, Shen Jing's murderous intent falters. She accepts Yi King's request with unexpected swiftness, though her gaze shifts menacingly toward Lone Moon, who suddenly becomes the target of her redirected wrath. Lone Moon finds himself in the crosshairs. The misunderstanding of the spirit seed's origins leads to a comedic reversal where Lone Moon is blamed for neglecting his responsibility, leaving him scrambling to defend his innocence against an enraged monitor. After a grueling hour of training within the chaos dimension, the trio emerges battered and bruised. Shen Ying, as usual, receives the lion's share of the discipline, yet the group remains resilient, if not physically broken. Shen Jing reappears, dragging the defeated and swollen Myla behind her. It seems the monitor has paid a steep price for his schemes, feigning unconsciousness on the floor while the trio looks on with trembling fear. With the atmosphere heavy, Shen Jing begins the formal interrogation. She demands to know why they have hidden their true identities and why they haven't returned home. The pressure is immense as she challenges their decision to remain outside. Shen Ying stands her ground. Despite the looming threat of further beatings, she insists that her place is here, alongside the people she has chosen to surround herself with. It is an act of defiance that even Shen Jing finds difficult to dismiss. Yi Qing's persistence pays off. By reaffirming his loyalty, he forces Shen Jing to acknowledge their bond. The monitor, softened by the persistence of these wild rascals, begins to yield, though she makes it clear there will be more lessons to come. In a final, desperate, and shameless move, Shen Ying uses her ultimate weapon, acting cute. The sight of her miniature form proves too much for Shen Jing, who sighs in defeat and finally grants them permission to remain. With Shen Jing gone, the trio collapses in relief. The encounter was terrifying, more so than facing an army of invaders. Yet they remain in the divine realm, free to continue their lives, though the divine realm itself lies in ruins. Lone Moon and Yi Qing begin the painstaking process of repairing the divine realm. The world, torn apart by the monitor's intervention, slowly returns to its vibrant green, while the two plane trees stand as silent witnesses to their labor. Just as peace is restored, Lone Moon returns with an unexpected guest. Fang Fang, appearing anxious, brings along a severely injured man, a manager from another plane, who looks to be at death's door. The stranger, Yóu Qián, finally wakes. Seeing Shen Ying, he immediately collapses, pleading for help. He recounts the destruction of his own plane, speaking of a terrifying invader who has left his home on the brink of total collapse. Initially, the group refuses, wary of getting involved in other people's business. However, Lone Moon, ever the opportunist, senses a chance for profit. He agrees to help, but only after laying out a ridiculous fee. The deal is struck. The group, now expanded by business, sets off toward the dying plane. They cross through the void, heading into the unknown, unaware of the true horror that awaits them within the depths of the darkness. They arrive at a nightmare. The plane is consumed by a creeping, unnatural darkness. Everything here feels wrong, and as they walk through the withered landscape, they realize the invader is far more powerful than Yóu Qián described. They are intercepted by a group of local cultivators, survivors of a disaster they call the Fallen Night. These people, strange in appearance, mistake the trio for refugees and escort them to a hidden base camp. In this bizarre world of female supremacy, the trio finds themselves treated with strange reverence, particularly the men. Lone Moon is baffled, while the women gaze at him with a mix of hunger and protectiveness. They board a spirit boat, a massive vessel designed to ferry survivors to safety. It is a bleak, chaotic journey, with thousands of people mourning their lost homes and fearing the return of the fallen night. Life on the spirit boat is strange. Yi Qing continues to serve Shen Ying, oblivious to the fact that his every gesture makes the women around them sigh with longing and envy for such dedicated care. The fallen night is a natural disaster of unknown origin. It is invisible, formless, and merciless. As they discuss the implications, they realize the darkness isn't just an external threat, it's part of the plane's source itself. Upon reaching their destination, the local female cultivators are relentless. Lone Moon is pelted with gifts and unwanted attention, realizing too late that his own handsomeness in this bizarre society is an active liability. Their journey is interrupted by a gang of local cultivators who mistake the trio for easy prey, or rather, a prize to be won. Their robbery attempt is quickly derailed when they realize they've picked the wrong victims. After a brief show of force that leaves the attackers buried in the ground, Shen Ying takes matters into her own hands. She marks them with the seal, ensuring they will carry the shame of their greed forever. They reach the corroding vacant valley. It is an abyss that swallows everything. They know that deep within, the source of the corruption lies waiting, guarded by things that shouldn't exist in this plane. Suddenly, the ground ruptures. A spatial lie, a creature that exists only in the space between planes, is forced out into the open. It is a terrifying beast, capable of tearing through the laws of reality itself. The battle is short and brutal. With a coordinated effort, they force the beast toward the rift they've opened in the sky, banishing it back into the void from which it came. With the beast gone, the mountain gate reveals the true horror, a gate to the underworld itself. This isn't just a simple corruption, it is a full-scale invasion of the afterlife into the mortal realm. The trio steps through, ready to confront the final truth. The journey for the three companions, led by the transmigrated Shen Ying and her powerful, devoted protector Yi King, brings them to a desolate corner of the Gui Yi sect, where they seek to uncover the truth behind the invader, manipulating the fate of the simple-minded Yóu Qián. Lone Moon and Yi King, hiding their true power through the essence of heavenly tribulations, watch over the naive Yóu Qián as he is forced into the impossible task of farming a dead, rocky wasteland. Despite the harsh environment, the field begins to sprout vibrant herbs overnight, a strange, unnatural phenomenon caused by the hidden intervention of the protagonists, designed to baffle their observers. Yóu Qián, oblivious to the divine forces acting behind the scenes, believes he has been blessed by fate, unaware that his every move is being watched by his hidden guardians. With each passing day, Lone Moon pushes Yóu Qián beyond his limits, molding the simple farm boy into a cultivator worthy of the path, all while keeping a watchful eye on the sect's darkening shadows. The arrival of Shu Yi, the invader cloaked in the guise of a delicate young woman, sets the stage for a dramatic confrontation. Her internal system broadcasts malicious intent, which the keen-eared trio detects instantly. As Shu Yi reaches the field, the sight of the thriving garden leaves her and her companions speechless. The game of cat and mouse deepens as the protagonists prepare to unveil the invader's facade. With the invader now standing within their trap, Lone Moon, Yi King, and Shen Ying prepare to dismantle the parasite that has haunted their plane, ready to turn the tide of this hidden war. The air in the garden grows heavy with hidden intent as the protagonists wait for the invader to make her final, fatal mistake, unaware that they are the true puppeteers of this unfolding destiny. Shen Ying, ever the observer, waits with calm indifference. For her, this battle is merely another chapter in the long, strange story of their survival across the infinite realms. Shadows stretch across the wasteland as the final confrontation approaches. The invader believes she is in control, but the true masters of the underworld have already decided her outcome. Yóu Qián, sensing an unknown presence, looks out into the darkness, his simple heart beating with a sudden, instinctual awareness that his life is about to change forever. The silence of the night is shattered as the protagonists prepare for the strike, their movements synchronized and lethal, ready to expose the parasite for what it truly is. The invader's deception starts to unravel. Her internal system, sensing the impending threat, begins to glitch and tear, exposing the true, distorted form hidden beneath the guise of the delicate young woman. Light and darkness collide in the garden. Lone Moon strikes with the precision of a veteran, cutting through the illusions created by the invader's corrupted system. Yi King acts as the steadfast shield, ensuring the innocent target of the invader is kept from harm while the battle to excise the parasite reaches its climax. Shen Ying intervenes, her presence turning the chaos into absolute stillness. The invader's system screams in digital agony, realizing that it has met an entity it cannot comprehend or manipulate. The parasite attempts to flee, tearing at the soul of its host, but the protagonists have anticipated every path of escape. There is nowhere left for the alien presence to hide. The battle concludes as quickly as it began. The malignant force is severed, and the spirit garden, though shaken, remains standing, bathed in the soft, cleansing moonlight. Yóu Qián finds himself alone, the terrifying nightmare he just experienced fading like a bad dream. He feels lighter, as if a weight he never knew he carried has finally been lifted. The secret heroes vanish back into the shadows of the sect, their mission of maintaining the cosmic balance silently fulfilled, waiting for the next disturbance in the river of destiny. Though the threat has been neutralized, Shen Ying knows that the path ahead is far from over. Across the myriad planes, more secrets wait to be uncovered and more invaders to be put in their place. They walk on, protectors of realms they call home, ever present, ever watchful. Another day ends for the invincible sect, but the story of their struggle for peace is merely just beginning. The spirit field, restored to its natural state, stands as a quiet testament to their intervention. No one will ever know the true origin of its miraculous recovery, nor of the lives saved in the dark. Peace returns to Guiyi, but the whispers of the cosmic void remain. As long as Shen Ying and her disciples guard the gate, the order of the 3,000 realms will endure. Unassuming turns a new leaf, his spirit bolstered by newfound confidence. Little does he know that his quiet journey toward the peak of cultivation is being guided by the very people he searches for. Lone Moon sighs, his disguise finally beginning to fade. The game of masks is over, but the memories of this small, strange excursion into the outer sect will remain a cherished secret. The vastness of the 3,000 realms is but a playground for those who can navigate its tides. They stand ready, watchful, and above all, invincibly united against all who dare threaten their peace. For Shen Ying, every crisis is just a chance for a new lesson or a better meal. With the threat gone and her belly satisfied, the world remains as beautiful as she always knew it to be. Their work here is done. The invincible sect moves on, their footsteps light and their intentions clear. They leave behind a realm healed, moving silently toward the next horizon of their eternal journey. One final glance at the world they protected, and they vanish into the stream of time. The story of Unassuming is his own to write now, guided by the seeds of greatness they planted in him. Across the infinite sea of plains, where chaos wars with order, the invincible sect remains the silent wall upon which the waves of destruction break, unheard and unnamed. The rivers of memory and time flow steady once more, the cracks and fissures of the past mended by the hands of those who truly understand the value of existence. Life continues in Guiyi, blissful and unaware of the cosmic war that almost engulfed their humble peaks. Such is the blessing of the protectors, a world that never realizes it was ever in danger. The journey never ends, and the void is always waiting. With hearts at rest and spirits at the ready, the invincible sect steps forward into the unknown, ever vigilant, ever together. The journey into the Guiyi sect was not what Unassuming expected. While he and his companion Lone Moon struggled in a barren field, the arrival of Steward He and the mysterious Shu Yi brought tension, especially when the latter tried to force a gift of spirit herbs upon him, confusing him enough to ask if she was ill. The mood shifted instantly when Steward He realized the weeds were actually rare, high-level variant spirit herbs. Panic replaced his condescension as he raced toward the main peak to alert the sect leadership, leaving the confused Unassuming behind. Envy consumed Shu Yi. She had come to mock the failure of Unassuming, only to witness his overwhelming success. The knowledge that the barren land had bloomed under his care planted the seeds of a deep, dangerous resentment in her heart. While everyone else saw just plants, Lone Moon and Yi King saw the truth. The very essence of the heavenly Tao was working to make these herbs thrive, a secret that had to be kept to avoid unwanted attention. The sect leadership arrived in a blur of motion. Yu Luan and the mountain elders were visibly trembling as they beheld the rare variant spirit herbs, realizing that they had an unprecedented treasure in their midst. The arrival of Tian Yi escalated the tension. As a soul formation powerhouse, he instantly recognized the value of the herbs, attempting to claim Unassuming and Lone Moon for his own mountain to secure the golden goose. The harvest was a delicate operation. Tian Yi worked with the caution of a surgeon, using ancient array formations to stabilize the volatile spirit energy of the plants, desperate not to ruin the fragile, high-value harvest. Disaster struck during the excavation. The very foundation of the land, a living spirit vein, awakened and tore itself from the earth, causing a massive surge of energy that left the powerful cultivators in total disarray. Miles away, Shen Ying remained blissfully ignorant. She sneezed, wondering why she felt a sudden chill, while the sect's best cultivators were out hunting a runaway spirit vein that she had inadvertently caused to hide. Amidst the turmoil, Unassuming experienced his own breakthrough. The concentrated ambient energy, forced into his body by Lone Moon's rigorous training, finally pushed him into the foundation establishment stage, much to the shock of the observers. The aftermath was a lesson in greed. Lone Moon wasted no time, forcing Yóu Qián into a lopsided split of the spirit stone earnings. He treated the interaction as a masterclass in business, leaving the naive student penniless. The pair were officially promoted to the main peak. The environment was vastly superior, filled with the aroma of elixirs and the wisdom of the 6 major mountains, setting the stage for their new life as official disciples. The library proved a letdown. Yóu Qián sought techniques to master, but all the books were shallow or restricted. Lone Moon sighed, knowing the sect kept the true treasures for those they deemed worthy, forcing Yóu Qián to consider a different path. The decision was made. Yóu Qián resolved to become a sword cultivator. The announcement stunned Lone Moon, who had waited years to see a disciple choose the path of the blade, his initial shock turning into sudden, overwhelming excitement. The training began instantly. Lone Moon dove into his own stores, providing Yóu Qián with everything from top-tier techniques to refined mystic iron, all while mentally calculating the massive, predatory debt he was about to place upon his student. Shu Yi appeared once more, cloaked in her usual act of kindness. She sought to influence Yóu Qián through subtle manipulation, but her overt attempts to appear as a caring friend only left him feeling increasingly unnerved. Yóu Qián's lack of social awareness hit Shu Yi like a physical blow. His genuine, deeply serious inquiry about her mental health shattered her composure, causing her mask of kindness to slip into pure, murderous rage. After Shu Yi retreated, Yóu Qián was left baffled by her hostility. Lone Moon could only watch, amused by the realization that his disciple was so dense he was completely immune to her sophisticated seduction tactics. A casual comment from Yóu Qián about Shen Ying nearly turned the room into a graveyard. Yi King, ever protective, felt the immediate, chilling urge to put his blade to the student's throat, leaving Lone Moon frantically de-escalating the situation. The realization of why Shu Yi was accelerating so fast came to light. She possessed a heart-protecting scale from the Celestial Emperor. To counter her advantage, the group decided to secure another for Yóu Qián. The moment of core formation had arrived for Shu Yi. Her system worked overtime, forcing the Heavenly Tao to delay the strikes, an interference that didn't go unnoticed by the watchful Yi King and Lone Moon. The Heavenly Tao, sensing the tampering, responded with a bizarre, corrosive downpour. Shu Yi was drenched in acid rain, her humiliation complete, and her system struggled to make sense of the chaotic environment. As Shu Yi sought to finish her trial, Yóu Qián was swept into a profound epiphany. The energy gathered around him at a violent speed, a silent testament to the strange connection he held with the sect's destiny. Post-epiphany, Yóu Qián was unsettled. He confessed to Lone Moon that he felt as if he had already walked the path of core formation before. The memory of his past life was bleeding through, despite the reversal of time. The sect leadership convened to formally accept Lone Moon and Yóu Qián as disciples. The announcement was met with shock and fierce opposition from Shu Yi, who viewed the elevation of her rival as a personal defeat. The entrance of Tian Jai silenced the hall. With an aura of soul formation power, he claimed Shu Yi as his own, openly mocking the sect master's choice and directly challenging the path chosen for Yóu Qián. The insult toward sword cultivators ignited Yi King's wrath. He descended from the heavens, his blade Kai obliterating the sect's protective defenses, forcing every soul in the building to tremble before his overwhelming power. In a display of sheer might, Yi King raised a new peak for his residents. The sect leadership, now fully aware of the power they had dared to slight, could only watch in terror and subservience. Tian Yi's awe at the new mountain's spirit fields turned to agony as Shen Ying casually stomped through the high-level herbs to assist him, leaving him on the verge of tears at the sheer wastage. Life on the new peak became a cycle of brutal training. Yóu Qián remained perpetually battered, hanging like cured meat after the day's lessons, while Lone Moon and Shen Ying enjoyed the profits of their strange new sect life. A new threat loomed. The return of the fiendish cultivator Zhang Yi forced the sect's hand. With the mysterious death of an elder, the sect leadership had no choice but to rely on their new, powerful sword cultivator to investigate. The journey to Yuanyang City began. The group of disciples set off, unaware of the dangers ahead. Amidst them, Shu Yi continued her silent, seething observation, plotting her next move against the rising star of Yóu Qián. As the boat sliced through the clouds, Lone Moon accepted a delivery from the sect, marking the start of a mission that would unravel the secrets of Zhang Yi and the true fate of the Guiyi sect. In the quiet chambers of the sect, the weight of a sudden and mysterious gift from supremacy Tianyi hangs heavy in the air. Lone Moon finds himself burdened by a collection of potent pills, his companions watching with skeptical eyes that hint at a deeper, unspoken tension. Lone Moon is quick to rebuke the strange, suspicious gazes of his peers. He knows the game being played by the old sect members, even if he cannot quite grasp the full extent of the scheme behind this unexpected generosity. For the sake of his disciple, Yóu Qián, Lone Moon offloads the suspicious stash. These pills might be useless to a powerful cultivator, but for a budding disciple at the foundation stage, they are treasures that could ensure his survival. The journey to Yuanyang City takes them through a landscape choked with the scent of decay. The city, once a bustling hub, is now shrouded in a sickly, gray aura, a harbinger of the dark fire that threatens its very foundations. Perfected Shu Yuan acts with practiced precision, his hands weaving a ward that snaps into place, sealing the city from the encroaching, icy malevolence. Outside, the world remains tainted, but within, a small sanctuary is forged. The city lord approaches, his relief palpable as he greets the cultivators. Yet, as his eyes land on the formidable presence of the supremacy, his confidence falters, replaced by a sudden, jarring sense of awe and apprehension. While the others tend to the wounded victims of the city, the main team shifts their attention to the source. The cold, creeping terror originates from the eastern forest, a place where no light dares to shine. The deeper they venture, the heavier the chill. The ground is scarred not by flame, but by a freezing, insatiable fire. It is a sight that makes even the most stoic pause. The dark fire has arrived in the mortal realm. Back within the city walls, the crisis unfolds with terrifying speed. What began as a rescue mission turns into a fight for survival as the dark fire proves to be infectious, leaping from host to host like a hungry predator. Lone Moon moves with instinctual speed, suppressing the erratic fire with a surge of divine power. His face is hard, his mind racing. The presence of such a fire here is a clear sign that a fiendish cultivator has breached the boundary. The loss of 10 golden core disciples in a matter of minutes devastates the sect's forces. Shu Yuan watches his strongest men fall to an enemy they cannot even name, the weight of their demise crushing his spirit. In the shadows, the invader Shu Yi watches the chaos with glee. She has seen this fire before. To her, this is not a catastrophe, it is a resource to be harvested for her own forbidden cultivation. Yi King finally intervenes, his true phoenix fire acting as a perfect counterbalance to the hellish cold. In one swift motion, he purges the dark remnants, saving the survivors and proving the supremacy of his own internal power. Under the cover of night, the trio pieces together the puzzle. The fiendish cultivator is not here to attack the sect. He is fleeing from the very power he once sought to master. Guided by their observations, they track the scent of malevolence to the city graveyard. Here, among the dead, the fiendish cultivator hides, waiting to die or to consume whichever comes first. Shu Yi arrives, weapon in hand, fully convinced that her preparation is superior to any threat. She has no idea she is being watched, nor does she realize she is about to encounter a truly formidable adversary. But fate has a peculiar sense of humor. Yóu Qián bursts onto the scene, his well-meaning intervention ruining the perfect setup. Shu Yi's tactical advantage shatters in an instant, her rage beginning to boil. The disturbance triggers the entity in the ground. The fiendish cultivator reveals himself, unleashing a torrent of dark fire that transforms the graveyard into a frozen inferno. Survival becomes the only goal. Desperation drives the creature to its final act. It tears into its own flesh, spilling lifeblood to fuel the birth of a monstrous, demonic form. The air turns frigid as the true horror begins to take shape. The battle is brought to an abrupt halt as the three true masters descend from the heavens. With the flick of a wrist, the demonic pressure is stifled, and the air of the graveyard finally settles into an uneasy stillness. Stripped of its power and body, the demon reveals the truth. It is but an earth demon, an opportunistic parasite that crawled through a tear in reality, only to find itself trapped in the shell of a dying man. The judgment is swift. The creature is bundled and cast back through the realm gate, a gift for the Demon King. The consequences of this action, however, are destined to be far more amusing than any of them expected. The delivery is received in the Demon King's palace, where the arrival of an extra demon leads to an absurd misunderstanding. A terrified king begs for his wife's forgiveness, fearing a betrayal that doesn't exist. Back at the city, the true origin of the plague becomes clear. It is not merely a stray demon, it is a leak in the river of forgetfulness. The invaders tampering with the cosmic balance is reaping a harvest of madness. In the city, Yóu Qián inadvertently offends Xu Yuan once more. The strict elder, ever the disciplinarian, is incensed at the reckless behavior of his daughter and the simple-mindedness of her supposed protectors. On the ship back, Shen Ying initiates an encounter with the invader, testing the depth of her arrogance. Xu Yi is left stunned, caught off guard by the audacity of a mere mortal stepping into her personal space. The encounter leaves Xu Yi furious. The fruit was a rare treasure, and the nonchalant way in which Shen Ying treats it, eating the seeds and offering the scraps, is the ultimate insult to her pride. As the sect competition begins, Lone Moon is dragged into the fray against his will. His name is submitted by Tianyi, the man believing he is doing his brother a favor, much to Lone Moon's frustration. To Yóu Qián's own amazement, the grueling training in the sword array pays off. He sweeps through his matches, his movements sharp and precise, winning victories that feel impossible even to him. The quarterfinals arrive, and the humor disappears. Lone Moon faces his own disciple. To ensure no secrets are revealed, he forfeits, but the gesture only serves to fuel Yóu Qián's despairing realization of the power gap. But peace is fleeting. A sudden violent tremor rocks the sect. Dan Chen Mountain explodes from within, torn apart by the self-destruction of a nascent soul elder. The air fills with a cold, unnatural darkness. It is not heretic aura, it is demonic. A seed of chaos has been planted, and it has finally blossomed into a tragedy. The hunt for the perpetrator begins, but the sect elders find only silence in the charred ruin. Desperate to purge the infection from Yóu Qián, they summon help from a higher plane. Feng Ying arrives, accidentally caught in the middle of his own marital dispute, dragged into a conflict that is far beyond his understanding. With the assistance of a box demon, the dark, demonic seal is unpicked. The energy that Xu Yi planted is neutralized, leaving her oblivious to the fact that her trap has been utterly dismantled. The stage is set for the final showdown. Xu Yi believes her victory is assured, unaware that her machinations have failed. The competition continues, but the true battle fought in the shadows is just beginning. Chaos erupted at Nameless Mountain when an overwhelming pressure forced the young disciple to his knees. The very ground trembled as unseen blades carved deep pits into the earth, signaling a terrifying confrontation. Lone Moon's anger simmered beneath his composed exterior. They had been intruded upon, and the culprit, the vengeful supremacy Tian Jai, showed no mercy, his killing intent aimed squarely at the sect's youngest promising talent. The arrival of Sect Master Yu Luan and the elders could not prevent the catastrophe. Disciples collapsed, coughing blood under the suffocating pressure of a soul formation cultivator gone mad with misplaced fury. Yi King acted with swift precision, intercepting the lethal energy. The air hummed with the resonance of spirit swords as the protector challenged the accuser to face him instead of the weak. The accusation was sharp and bitter. Tian Jai blamed the disciple for the downfall of his own beloved pupil, Xu Yi, who now lay comatose with her meridians shattered and her golden core destroyed. Panic rippled through the gathering. News of Xu Yi's critical condition sent her father, Xu Yuan, racing toward her quarters, leaving behind a group paralyzed by the sudden revelation of a hidden feud. Tension spiraled toward an inevitable duel. The sect hung in the balance as two powerful forces prepared to strike, but the urgency of Xu Yi's failing life forced a reluctant, fragile truce. The journey to Danzia Mountain was met with a sickening atmosphere. A thick, suffocating aura permeated the temple walls, an aura that neither Lone Moon nor Yi King could ignore. Something was horribly wrong. The air wasn't just thick with Kai, it was tainted. They were walking into a trap, and the very ground they stood upon felt like a grave in the making. Just before they breached the inner sanctum, Yi King intervened. A protective array hummed into existence, shielding the elders from the unseen, corrosive rot waiting on the other side of the door. Yi King didn't wait for permission. He shattered the door to the sick room, and in that split second, the facade of a quiet recovery vanished in a blast of dark, suffocating energy. A figure was cast out from the darkness. It was Yóu Qián, broken and barely clinging to life. The truth revealed itself. His own daughter was no longer the girl they once knew. The air filled with demonic Kai that withered all it touched. There, hovering in the center of the darkness, was Yóu Yi. She had transformed, becoming a conduit for a power that destroyed everything around her. Driven by a fanatical need to save his student, Tian Jai lunged forward. His own robes disintegrated upon contact with the foul energy, yet he didn't falter, blinded by his refusal to see her true nature. Inside, a war raged for her soul. A system within her frantically shouted warnings, but the demonic seed had taken root, consuming her sanity and replacing it with pure, corrupted rage. When the demonic Kai turned its wrath toward them, Yi King stepped up. He unleashed his true phoenix fire, a force that acted as the natural enemy of all things demonic, cleansing the courtyard in seconds. With the fire closing in, Tian Jai made his move. He snatched the corrupted girl, fled the sect, and vanished into thin air, leaving the elders in a state of absolute, traumatized silence. The realization sank in. Tian Jai had been hiding a fiendish cultivator all along. He was a traitor to the sect, and his protege was the weapon that nearly ended them all. Days turned into years. With their enemies vanished, the sect returned to an uneasy peace. Lone Moon, bored out of his mind, turned his focus to torturing unassuming with unrelenting training regimes. Years of research into celestial-grade pills finally bore fruit. Tianyi, after endless struggle, finally triggered the ultimate test, the immortal Ascension Lightning Tribulation, shaking the very foundations of the sect. His mortal body shattered, replaced by an immortal one born from the fury of the heavens. Tianyi rose, leaving behind the ruins of his peak and the shocked, celebrating disciples of Gui sect. As he ascended, Tianyi's dignity vanished. He flailed his arms like a panicked duck, calling out to Lone Moon, desperate to offload his worldly possessions before entering the heavens. Lone Moon accepted the hoard of items with a mix of amusement and disbelief. He was no charity case, but who was he to turn down a gift from an ascending immortal? The celebration was cut short by a violent, earth-shaking blast. The sect's protective array had been compromised from the inside, and an army of fiendish cultivators poured through the gate like an ink-stained tide. It was Tian Jai. He had unified the demonic sects and returned, fueled by spite and the belief that the sect had betrayed him long ago, to finish the job he started years prior. The battle was barely a blink in the eye. Yi King didn't bother with words. With a casual flick of his spirit sword, he unleashed a wall of pressure that flattened the entire fiendish army into the earth. The invasion ended as quickly as it began. Tian Jai, stripped of his power, was tossed back to the sect master. He laughed, a crazed sound, warning that this was only the beginning of their doom. But their relief was cut short. Shui hadn't come to help, she had come to finish what her master failed to do. She stood at the peak, holding a hostage, demanding that the sect be razed. The hostage, Shen Ying, didn't seem to get the memo. She just kept chewing her fruit, completely unbothered by the blade at her throat, much to the exasperation of those trying to save her. Shu Yi opened the demonic gate, summoning an ancient sky fiend. The figure stepped out, expecting carnage, but his arrival was met with an outcome far more bizarre than anything he could have anticipated. The mighty demon recognized the hostage and immediately dropped to his knees. He didn't want blood, he wanted mercy. He threw his own master under the bus, desperate to avoid the wrath of the one who named him. With the invader's connection severed and the primary soul freed, Shen Ying pursued the escapee into the chaos void, dismantling the central system with a single, brutal display of absolute power. Order was restored to the planes, though the true nature of reality remained as complicated as ever. But for Shen Ying, as long as dinner was served, the universe was exactly where it needed to be. Shen Ying had reached a level of power that the chaos void could no longer constrain. As her sister, the newly appointed judge of the planes, Shen Jing struggled to manage the overwhelming chaos that spanned across dimensions. Shen Ying, once a simple mortal, had transcended into a figure of absolute, effortless authority. To aid her sister, Shen Ying offered up the parenting system. It had evolved, gaining a unique soul through the constant, unintentional acknowledgement of its existence by the powerful managers Yi King and Lone Moon. It was no longer just a program, it was a companion. The system, formerly a nuisance to the invincible sect, had turned into a sycophantic bootlicker. Watching it display such intense loyalty to the new judge, both Lone Moon and Yi King felt the absurdity of their long-fought battles against invader systems that were never even worth the effort. With Shen Jing ascending to the role of judge, someone had to watch over the current plane. In a display of perfect synchronized teamwork, Shen Ying and Yi King stepped back, leaving Lone Moon to face the burden alone. The powers of the managers were intrinsically linked. Lone Moon, ever the diligent father figure, realized that the assistant's seal had been held by Yi King to keep their strength tethered. He retrieved it, feeling the weight of his duties yet again. Hunger was the only true authority Shen Ying recognized. With the promise of stolen delicacies from the judge's realm, the master and disciple prepared for their long-awaited return to the invincible sect, indifferent to the chaos they left behind. At last, the journey through the void was over. The invincible sect waited, and with their planes finally under control and the judge keeping the peace, the long road home was finally paved. They were returning to the only place they ever truly called home.